Well, welcome to Dear God, Where Do I Go From Here? Sacred Journey Mapping course with Christina Drouin. I'm Christina Drouin. I'm your facilitator and guide in this sacred journey. I'm so happy that you're here. Just take a deep breath and pat yourself on the back because you made a really, really good choice to commit some time and some energy and some deep thinking to figuring out not only where you're going, but even more important, who you are and what you stand for. These are essential elements of any directional approach or any growth plan or any self-awareness or self-growth strategy is first to know where you are and what among all the things you could be might you be. So you are in the right place. We are not alone. We are going to be doing this together with the divine, and we're going to be inviting the wisdom of the universe to the strategy table, which I personally find extraordinarily exciting. And something that, you know, we don't always do. A lot of times we ask for blessings after we've made decisions. This model is the opposite of that. This model is asking for direction before we make decisions. So I'm anxious to get started. I'm delighted that you're here. Take a deep cleansing breath. And relax. Prepare your mind to accept, to learn. No judgment, just deep discernment and welcome. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you now. And I'm going to pull up on my screen the Dear God, Where Do I Go From Here workbook. And you either have downloaded this ebook version or you have the printed version. But let's, I want to take you right away to the table of contents so you have a sense of where we're going with this, with your courses. We're going to be doing 7 sessions, and we're going to be following the format in the book. The last chapter in the book, chapter 8, is actually the is your sacred journey map itself. So that's not you're going to be contributing to that as we go along in each of the sessions. So that's not a separate session in and of itself. But today's session, we're going to get started on the basics, how to use this workbook, some definitions of terms, the actual planning model itself, and what you can expect to get from Sacred Journey Mapping. So we're going to use this workbook, the early pages in the workbook, to kind of get you grounded in the form and the format we're going to be using, and then we're going to go right into chapter 1. So this particular session is going to be longer than the others, and because we're including the basic getting started elements. So let's start with what will you receive from the benefit. What will be your benefits from Sacred Journey Mapping? So one of the things that's most important is that you are going to become much more consistent in making choices that match who you are and what you stand for. So one of the key reasons we find ourselves in a state of dis-ease or feeling out of sorts is because we're making decisions that aren't really aligned with what we fundamentally stand for. It's an easy thing to do. There are competing priorities, competing responsibilities, and when we're not clear about the core values, not all the values, but the core values that define us, we can find ourselves making decisions that go in disparate directions. So that's one of the key elements that you're going to gain from from this experience is you will become more consistent in making those choices that match who you are and what you stand for, because you will have defined what you stand for. Second huge benefit is going to be that you will be much more alert to everyday opportunities to live your purpose. And you may say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. And that's a legitimate point. And that is one of the other key benefits of this course, is that you will discover and discern your purpose through the exercises that we will be engaged in. I've had people tell me that going through this course has saved them 10 years in therapy to figure out what their purpose is. And, you know, it's just, these are exercises that have worked for me over the years, and I'm delighted to be able to share them with you through this course. The next thing, key benefit that you're going to receive is you will be clear about your priorities. So there are so many different competing wants and needs, and, you know, what's a want and what's a need, and you know, to be able to discern the difference between those things that should occupy our minds and our energy and our resources, and those things that we really don't need to have occupying us and our renting space in our brains. So we're going to figure out what among all the possible things that you could focus on in 4 key quadrants: self, relationships, work, and world. In each of those 4 major areas, what would be the things that really should drive your attention and focus your attention over the next 3 years? We're going to figure that out in this course. We're also going to identify what the vision, what could be your vision for the future. And that would be, what might the divine be dreaming for you? What, you know, the universe has a dream for you. Wouldn't it be great to know what it is? So we have exercises that are going to help you determine what that vision might be. And then we will determine the goals that will that we're calling success milestones, but that will mark your achievement of that vision in increments, in sections, so that you break down that huge vision, which we want to be bold and compelling and inspiring. And you break it down into manageable chunks, and those chunks are going to be in each one of those 4 priority areas. So we will set those success milestones. Then how will you reach those success milestones? Well, we will determine what your strategies are, and your strategies we're calling promising pathways, and we'll figure out what those promising pathways will be, how you will reach those success milestones. Strategy always answers the question how, and we're going to identify 3 major directional approaches, or 3 major ways that you can reach each of those success milestones. And then finally, and probably most importantly, we are going to put teeth into that plan, because up until this point, everything sits at a 30,000 foot level, very high level, very broad stroke, intentionally, because major life changes are things that are big and huge pieces of life to manage. So if we don't identify the specific projects, programs, and activities you will engage in to activate your strategies, or your get on your promising pathways so that you can achieve your success milestones, you will be flying around like circling Newark for 3 years, instead of actually getting down into the backyards and actually creating the specific, doing the work, doing the bulldozing work that will get you to your vision. So those are the major benefits that you're going to receive from this course. You're going to understand your core values, which will bring you into closer alignment, beliefs and deeds, so that you're walking the talk. You will understand your purpose, so that you'll have a compelling reason to get out of bed every day, even on the most gloomy of days. You will understand your priorities, so that you're not distracted and going in 17 different directions that really are not productive and work against you. You will have dreamed God's dream for your future. You will have a big, bold, compelling vision of what success will look like for you 3 years from now. You will also have success milestones that will break down that big vision into manageable chunks that are achievable, and will tell you what you need to be specifically working toward. In addition to those success milestones, you will have promising pathways, which will answer the question, how will I reach my success milestones? And give you some sense of approach so that you won't be going, again, in many different directions. And then finally, you will have specific activities, which will be time limited and very specific, so that you will know, how can I get this plan off the shelf and into action? How can I actually get on my way to that vision? You will have specific activities attached to every strategy. So those are your 7 large and huge benefits from taking this course. And I'm anxious to get you going on this, but before you do, I want to just point out a couple of things to get ready. I encourage you to do 2 basic things. Find some sacred space. I know that's hard right now to do, maybe in your home with everyone present all the time because of COVID-19, and it's difficult to find some space. But if you possibly can, even put a rug on a corner of the floor, or claim some small space just for yourself that you can sit and complete the steps in this course, even if it's just a small corner of a room, small corner of the kitchen table, or some other place that you can dedicate to yourself. Even a corner of a closet you could do. I mean, just some place where you can think and be quiet. That's one thing. And the other thing to ground you in the work will be a journal. I recommend you journal, because as you go through the exercises in this course, some things you're going to want, some things, especially if you take the course over a series of weeks, there'll be things that will come up during the week that you want to journal about. And in fact, if you go to the follow-ons after each of the exercises, there are specific activities that you can engage in that you'll want to journal. So those 2 elements, space for yourself and a place to record your thoughts, will help you get on the road to success in this course. So I encourage you to go ahead and do both of those things. So I'm going to push the pause button here for a moment. And I'm just going to ask you to think about, just take a thought, take a moment to think. Is there some place that you can dedicate to doing this work? I'm going to give you a minute to think about that, and maybe you just want to jot down where that is. Okay. And now remember, your journal can be as simple or as complicated as you want it. It can be a piece of paper, it can be a napkin, or a bunch of napkins. It doesn't really matter. Just someplace that you can write your thoughts. A pad of paper, digital journal, one of those really cool contemporary print journals is great as well. So this workbook is made up of 2 major parts. And the whole Sacred Journey Mapping course, in fact, is made up of 2 distinct parts: principles and practices. And the principles are the actual spiritual anchors of this process that I have developed over 20 years of doing this work with not-for-profit organizations. I developed 7 practices that work in every setting. But for you and for Sacred Journey Mapping, I've tied those practices to 7 relevant principles. And in addition to the principles, what I've tried to do is attach to the principles some meaningful story, inspiring quote, and some way that you can think about the spiritual principle in an actual with actual reflection, I've added a prayer. So each one of the principles and its related practice has a prayer that accompanies it. And so the prayer actually asks for the wisdom and the guidance that we need to complete that particular step. And I'm super excited about these prayers. They really are customized for this process, and I really do hope that you will enjoy them and you'll be able to use them to invite God, your higher power, the universe, whatever you identify as larger than yourself, to the strategy table. So those are the principles, the practices, and the prayers. And then in addition, every chapter has a set of follow-on habits. And the follow-on habits are actually activities or experiential projects that you can engage in that will kind of bring your experience of sacred journey mapping to the next level. And as time allows, I really encourage you to engage in those follow-on activities because it will really solidify the learning in the particular chapter that we're on. So that's my encouragement to you to go ahead and do that. And then at the end of the workbook, chapter 8, as I mentioned earlier, that's where you're going to be recording your actual sacred journey map. And you will, as each activity is completed, you can transpose the result of that activity into your sacred journey map, and you're starting to build your plan in real time. And it's exciting. Believe me, it's very exciting to watch it take shape. So that's how to use the book and how the book is organized. And here are the 7 principles and their related practice. So the practice 1 of discover your core values is based on the principle that we choose the direction of our life by the beliefs we allow to define us. So the principle, I choose the direction of my life by the beliefs I allow to define me. So the beliefs you allow to define you are in fact your core values. These are the things that reside deep, deep inside your heart. That are the heart and soul of the matter for you, and that make you different and make you you, and define who you are and what you stand for. So getting in touch with those core values is absolutely critical to any planning that is aligned with your identity. You can do all kinds of planning that you may find later is actually irrelevant to who you are. We can get caught up in those activities very, very easily in life. Again, competing responsibilities and accountabilities and needs and wants can be a confusing landscape to navigate when we're not clear on the ground that we stand on. And the ground that we stand on is made up of these first 2 principles and practices. The principle of I choose the direction of my life by the beliefs I allow to define me, which is exhibited in the discovery of your core values. And the second principle, my life has meaning and impact simply because I exist. That's your mission. I'd like you to just kind of stop for a moment and think about that. My life has meaning and impact simply because I exist. So you don't have to be the first person to walk on the moon or a planet. You don't have to discover the cure to COVID-19. Just because you live and you breathe, your life has meaning. That's a spiritual principle. You are energy. You have meaning. In the planning process, how we identify that meaning is through our mission. So where core values answer the question, what do I stand for? mission, you'll find out, answers the question, why do I exist? So that's exciting work, and we have activities to help you on your way with that huge discerning result when you get to that aha moment. Principle 3, everything will work together for the good of my life purpose. So this is where you're going to be setting your priorities. The practices frame your 3-year priorities of all the things you could be working on and could be taking your energy and your resources. What are the ones that require your focus and your attention? And they will work together for the good of your life purpose. These will be in those 4 quadrants that I mentioned earlier: self, relationships, work, and world. We'll talk more about those in a bit. And then principle 4, with God, all things are possible. And in this practice, you dream God's dream for you. You know, what is the divine thinking of for your future? What does the universe have in mind for what success looks like for you 3 years from today? It's an extraordinary privilege, I think, to be able to shift your focus to think about the creator of the universe actually having a dream for you. Wow. Wow. Not just a dream I dream, but that there is a dream for me out there in the universe for what success might look like for me. Very exciting chapter in this course. The next, once you've identified that dream for you, to really believe that the universe desires your success. It does. It doesn't, it's not conspiring against you. It's not waiting for you to fail. It actually desires your success. So to get in touch with that success and to set those success milestones is a huge element of creating a sacred journey map. Once you have those milestones, how will you achieve those? Well, we talked earlier that you need your promising pathways. So choosing your promising pathways, but to get in touch with the fact that divine direction is yours for the asking. So the principle, divine direction is mine for the asking, is a really sound and important principle. Again, rather than ask for blessing after I've chosen direction, why not ask for direction when I'm at the crossroads, when I'm lost, when I'm confused, or when I've set a goal that I want to make sure I achieve? Why not ask for direction then? So that's that chapter. And then finally, principle 7, I am not alone on the sacred journey, and the practice is journey forward. This is the actual creation of the steps, the inspired action steps that will ensure your progress on your plan. So those are the 7 chapters, the 7 principles, and the 7 practices. And they kind of fit together in this cool little rubric. You know, each answers a key question from the who am I, why am I here on this earth? Who am I? It's your core values, answers the question, the ideals that you stand for. The key question, why am I here on this earth? That's your mission. And that's your purpose in life. What are the main things? Those are your personal priorities and your focus for the next 3 to 5 years or 3 years. If I could have the life of my dreams with the impact the divine most desires, what would success look like for me in 3 years? It is a stretch from where I am today. That's your vision. That's your big picture. In 3 years, what will be new, better, or different about myself, relationships, work, and my impact on the world? Those will be your success milestones. How will I get there? Those will be your promising pathways. And finally, what specific things will I do this year and by when? And those will be your inspired action steps. So how does all this fit together? I have a picture here, a model that shows you the core values and the mission, and to drive the personal priorities, because a priority is not a priority unless it impacts your ability to live your values and mission. So your mission and values are the fundamentals, elements of your plan. Your personal priorities are in those 4 major areas. Your personal priorities get resolved in your divine vision. And then your vision is energized and achieved through your success milestones and your promising pathways. For each success milestone will have 3 promising pathways, and every promising pathway will have a series of inspired action steps. So that's the model. That's how it all kind of hangs together. They're not disparate. They're not random. They're not scattered. They, in fact, form a system. And this is the Sacred Journey Mapping System. That's how it all comes together. So this next page, this at a glance page, explains the difference between some of the elements in the language that we're going to be using and the rationale for them. I'm encouraging you to go ahead and read that on your own, because I really do want to get into the actual first exercise. So here we are, exercise in core values. I'm going to push the pause button here for a moment, and we are going to take a little bit of a break. Take a little break, and we'll come back in a couple minutes.